أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi to my dear brothers and sisters all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Yes, this is us Australians taking over this family edition of This Muslim Reads, and I welcome to today's book review. This wouldn't have been possible without you amazing listeners and subscribers, so barakallahu feekum. And please do not forget to make dua for all the amazing presenters for their amazing effort in bringing you these awesome snippets and reviews. So what do we have in store for you in this family edition? So alhamdulillah, a little bit of my background story. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and there's always been this worry in me: if I was a good father and if I wasn't a good parent, how do I become one? So recently I was reading the story of Fatima to my daughter before she went to bed, and what got me, Fatima, the daughter of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and what got me was her mannerism, her characteristics were described as the exact copy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if you see, the Prophet was the living embodiment of the Quran. And if you see, her mother was also among the best ladies who walked this earth, Khadija. So subhanallah, it makes me wonder, how did the Prophet then, despite his time that he had to give to the Ummah and the responsibility he had in doing da'wah and also training, and how was he able to inculcate this sense into his daughter? And it made me think that there's probably more into parenting than just reading Quran, memorizing Quran, sending them to right school. If it made me think that if I'm missing something like a psychological and spiritual side of training for my child. So yeah, alhamdulillah. So the book we're going to review on is a book that I've come across doing some rounds on Instagram among homeschooling parents. So yeah, I thought, hey, why not check it? And I would say it's a fresh read for me, and it is a dry subject, but I hope you find it useful, inshallah. So, who is this for? If you are a Muslim who's planning to get married, then this book is the right for you. If you have ever worried or ever wondered what does it take to find the right spouse? Or have you ever wondered if marriage is more than just a physical desire? Or it's for those who are already married and are thinking about having kids? Or maybe you already have kids and you're worried about their future. So, without further delay, the book that we're going to review today is from an author, Gulam. And the book name is From Seed to Cedar, Nurturing the Spiritual Needs in Children. Interestingly, in its very beginning, the author kind of sits us down and kind of talks to us in a way where it's a straight heart-to-heart talk, mind-to-mind talk. And he says that for readers to really benefit from this book, he says, we need to check in with our morality. We need to check in with our morality, and we need to feel the pain in our hearts for the moral corruption that's surrounding ourselves, within our families, within our friends, and within our neighbors. What he wants us to sit down and work out was, he wanted to reach a consensus with those who are disturbed by the moral corruption of the immense scale in our surroundings. So that's one of the things, and he goes into why societies have failed, which is an interesting take, and how it is all about the change in the morality and people turning their backs on Allah and chasing material desires, and erasing the awe of Allah from the hearts. he also went into a bit of detail into imitating other nations, and also mentioned about the hadith where the Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam warned us about situations of the previous nations that collapsed due to moral disintegration, and also foretold that we would be following the path of them step by step. And sometimes I look around and material welfare of people in certain countries, it can make us think that in the first sight that they have overcome all problems and attained happiness. But as a matter of fact, the modern societies are a lot more restless, with this quench of inner peace, happiness, which they fail to find. I see suicide rates among kids really high. Suicide rates across the community is really high. The question is, how can a society with individuals committing suicide at such a high rate be considered happy and having that inner peace? So the question we need to ask ourselves is, what is right and what is wrong for us? How would we like our children to be brought up? Do we have a plan in mind? Are there any values that we wish our children to learn? And how do we as parents do in our practice to acquire those values? For example, do we care about their hanging out late outside at night? Late at night, do we just open the door as if nothing happened? The question is, we need to look deep inside and see what is our measure of morality. And we need to decide for ourselves, what do we consider moral, immoral? It's very interesting. Every Friday we read Surah Kahf, and we start with the verses that says that Allah has sent this Quran without in a straight way. It's there's no crookedness in it, and subhanallah, it's a reminder every week, week in, week out, that the morality in Islam doesn't move, doesn't change. So we need to question deep within ourselves, what do we do? How far are we willing our children to go? And if you're not pleased with what's happening so far, what have you planned to do? The author kind of suggests, have you tried any solutions? If you believe that kids are a gift from Allah, and they're probably one of the biggest gifts, have you tried solutions? Have you seriously tried any solutions, such as visiting specialists, making dua, shedding tears for them? And these questions are pretty much directed at ourselves. So, have we actually looked into it and sought solution in true sense? And one of the reasons is, if you don't have this true sense of things, the author says that the underlying reason is that we have pushed Allah aside and His Prophet aside, and we are worshipping our whims and desires instead. And as the Prophet said, he was sent to this earth to complete and perfect high morals. And the Quran also alludes to this fact. So with that start, it's quite a heavy start, but it does give us a focus on where we are sitting with our moral compass. Are we happy with what's happening in society? Are we happy with what we are? And going from there. And if you don't have a consensus there, it's really hard to go forward and raise kids in a planned way. The next subject that the author gets into is in the importance of marriage and what kind of marriages and all that stuff. So it's quite a detailed thing. I'll let you guys read into it. But what I want to take out of marriage is the fact that the importance of a home, which is built together by a husband and wife. The emphasis is that any lasting education starts from the family and remains an essential building block, because a family has so much to offer society. in fact, an enlightened society is not achievable if the family is not founded on principles of education. Minds, especially in the subconscious period of development, can be nurtured within the family, and this also depends on the health of the marriage. Again, there's a lot talked about the purpose of marriage, and I think this is a good read for those who want to get married, and those who are also trying to refine their pathway into how the relationships are. One of the things that he explains is if the husband and wives are poles apart, then there's a good chance that in such a family the husband and wife will never be united. In fact, they have separate lives. He says in such a family there would be 2 different books read, 2 different newspapers that come in, 2 different types of stories are being told, 2 different types of gathering take place. The wife talks about religion, faith, morality, and the husband uses an excuse to find an argument. In this way, 2 lives are being lived in one family, and such a situation can be very heavy on kids. And you're asking kids at a very young age to decide to choose sides, or worse, if they grow up, they just hate the both sides, and it makes them quite insensitive, and they hate both society and the institution of having a family and the institution of marriage. One of the things going forward is he mentions about how the husband and wife should be a team. Parents should always be in agreement on matters that involve raising kids, well-behaved and good kids. He does mention that the mother is psychologically more capable at raising kids. It comes natural to her thanks to the compassion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given her. The mother is quite a natural teacher. She's quite a natural trainer. And a mentor, but he also alludes to the fact that the father needs to be more deliberate, thoughtful, wise, and careful. Even though man has a lot to endure, and man can endure a lot, he's still not the height of compassion. So when both parents work, in our societies, it's very hard for parents to look after kids, and I have used in the past nannies and babysitters, and one of the things that I used to think is that these people looking after my child are so knowledgeable, so caring, and they care about our child even more than what I could. But little did I fail to realize that the fact that the child needs more than this. The child needs my tenderness, my closeness, the closeness that the child can read on the face of the mother, or find in the heart, or feel sitting, shuffling up to his mum or dad. Other parents, other people can't give that child that tenderness, nor you can substitute your child with that feeling by anything else. So as parents, as a team, we should be on guard, protecting our children from possible dangers. We should also prioritize moral education of our children. It's very, very important that we, just like chess, we need to be 2 steps ahead. We must not allow them to fall into rational and emotional or logical emptiness, as what the author says. Alhamdulillah, if the parents are pious, upright, and attached to the Quran, and if they are practicing Muslims, then inshallah the children will grow in all aspects, and they'll be inshallah pride of the nations. So the unit as a family is what the author talks about, and he says you need a plan. The plan is that as a family you need to have a good relationship with Allah, and the 2 things that should be the dominant force is reason and love. Family environment and parental behavior are the exact mirrors in which children can see themselves. He also goes about to talk about as a family, as a plan, you need to encourage generosity in children. The kids should see their parents giving freely to charity and be willing to go out of their way to do favors for other people. With regards to duties of the father, there's a whole chapter mentioned and a few things mentioned, so it's quite a good read. I'm just going to touch base on a few of the small things that they mention. One of the things is the duties of the father is the measures that to be taken before the birth of the child to prepare the house, give the proper nutrition, making sure the material needs of the child are being taken care of. The father also plays a huge role in the nurturing and education, right from the naming of the child to providing the training and education to ensure that the child would have a future livelihood in accordance, and this is all in accordance with the age. They also mentions one of the duties of the father is to have a sense of responsibility in the nurturing and education of the child, and I see that quite immensely within certain cultures that that responsibility is not taken up. It quite leads to quite detrimental facts on the child's emotional composition, where the child then is not fully given that particular emotional part of the upbringing from that parent. We also need to be good examples. We also need to give good examples by providing them with an opportunity to meet adults who have done really good in internalizing the Islamic moral values, and it's nice to introduce them to them. Also nice to introduce a lot of good behavior, the stories of the Sahaba, stories of prophets, and things like that would encourage that good behavior. In terms of parental responsibility, the author kind of says that one of the main things that we need to do as a parent and the parental responsibility is if you've got more than one child, so you've got to maintain equal treatment among them. At no point do you want to be partial or impartial to one child. The author also mentions that it's a very interesting thing that he says take our children seriously. Don't just ignore them. What is important for the child could be so much that you might not care about that emotional feeling of the child. And build a sense of trust. Trust doesn't happen overnight. If you are buying things or if you're selling things, you go in a shop, the shopkeeper doesn't give you that attention, or the shop assistant doesn't give you that attention. Within the first 5 minutes, I walk away from that shop saying that I'll take my money elsewhere. The thing is, trust, as I'm finding out, is not a thing that comes one day and goes off. It's a building process. So instilling that sense of trust, over again, demonstrating it to them that you're there, will help put that base. That one day they'll come and say, "Dad, I have this problem," or "Mum, I had this problem. I want to talk to you." But it takes time for that to happen. And as he says, it's a gradual method of nurturing, not one day you just sit down, upload that in the kid's hard drive and say, yep, that's it. It talks about, the book also goes into details about parental duties, and I would love you guys to go and read into it because it goes into quite some detail. It also, on the crux of it, goes in. The whole book, I think, is revolving around the Quran, Sunnah, and adopting Allah's morality. One of the things that I just walked out of this book taking out was the fact that it's it's our compass, the moral compass. If the moral compass is right, things actually work out a lot better. So he goes more into that. The author also talks about religious education of the child. Things like taking our children to the masjid, and also answering questions about the children's questions when they come up, not snubbing them, worshipping and praying salah in front of our children, and it goes into a lot more of according to age-wise what you need to do and when you're going to do. It also one of the things I liked about it is kind of alluded to the fact that it talks about education a bit more in detail, and it has this big comparison between Quranic and non-Quranic education, and it's an interesting comparison of how the non-Quranic education is based on, and how the Quranic education is based on. The non-Quranic education is all about me, and the Quranic education is all about what can I do to serve Allah better. What can I do to do things better? So the base things about those educations are different. So trying to get the aims and trying to get that sense of what it is for and what you're trying to achieve, I think he raises a good argument about that. That's pretty much the whole book in summary. There are overall, I think, as a nurturing book, it's a pretty heavy topic. I would give it kind of interesting because it's got a lot of practical tips, but it also makes you think and go back, and you have to actually sit down, work on it. It's not something where you get all the answers you want. You definitely need to go and start working, sit down, start planning, start thinking, start reflecting, start reading the Quran more. It kind of makes you do all of that and understand how you want to proceed. Every child's different, so your plan and attack for every child is different. But what it does, it makes you sit down and at least have a plan. Even if you don't have a plan, it kind of gets you up on the mindset that you need. So getting that mindset, getting that plan going is very crucial. The other thing about I've read some other books which are non-Islamic books, and it all works on the emotional stability, and they talk about that, the nurturing, and to let the child be themselves and express who they are, and introduce good morals, and building the self-confidence and things of that. They give more, I think, age-wise, you can find more practical tips in other books. But rarely do I find in an Islamic book some age-wise way. If you want, like, do this 10 things with your kids at year 2, do this 5 things with your kids at year 3. Everyone's a bit different, so it's hard to put a generic code. I wish kids would come with a manual or a how-to guide, and each kid would walk in with their own how-to guide. How to look after me, how to feed me, what to say. Life would be so simple. But subhanallah, it's amazing. This is why the gift of the kids kind of takes you back towards the Deen, kind of takes you back to Allah. You've done the best you can. Things are out of your control, and you fall again back in the fold of dua for Allah, and you go, and you're suddenly starting to think with kids beyond your life, beyond just the kid in front. You're thinking, how can I raise this kid as a leader for generations and generations to come, so that she or he could be an example for generations and generations. So So I think it's a good read. It's a heavy read. If you had asked me to sum up this book, I would say it's quite a heavy read because it kind of questions your morality, and then it kind of questions why you got married. It kind of questions why, and it makes it look in a way that if you're a practicing Muslim and if raising kids is a bit easier in terms of everyone's on the same page, but you'll find it questioning and reflecting yourself if your morality is not in the right place, and you will struggle with that regardless of how many books you read. Another thing about the book that there were some references that were from not the Quran or Hadith and from some other books. So I've taken things with a pinch of salt, a grain of salt, and I've said, see, alhamdulillah, I don't give any weight to those, but I'm happy for it to be there, and if it makes some sense, it's like wisdom, lost property. I'm happy to take it, just like any other quote by any other person, keeping that in mind. So alhamdulillah, I've taken that. Regarding books, if this is a good read, and I would give it 3.5 stars out of 5. Alhamdulillah, and I hope you get the book, and I hope you guys can read the book and see what it is all about. Inshallah, I hope this has helped you in understanding the book a bit better. In the end, yes, I was a bit biased with my opinions, and you are free to agree or disagree with it, and I'm free for you to add your comments and alhamdulillah, if there's anything that you would like to voice your opinion, please email me. I'll be available, and I'm sure the person who looks after this Muslim Reads would make sure that I get the feedback back again. So Jazakallah khair, and may Allah make it easy for you. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا من المتقين إماما. That's a dua that resonates quite heavily, and I wish the same for you guys. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.